You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast, brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Business owners, entrepreneurs, and marketers, do you have a current course or considering making a new course? With us today is the founder of Creation, Jasmine Jonte, who leads a done-for-you course creation agency. They help sold-out service providers stop trading time for money by leveraging an online program in their offer suite. Jasmine, thanks so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
So excited to have you here. Tell us more about your entrepreneurial journey. What were you doing before, and how did this kind of take you through your own journey?
So, before I was an entrepreneur, I was a teacher and I taught in the lowest performing school in the country, which at the time was in Detroit, Michigan. And I loved my kids. I loved the act of teaching. I really loved imparting knowledge, seeing my kids grow, tracking their results, both in what they knew, but also in who they were as people to see their character develop. And unfortunately, the profession, I burnt out. If you know anything about teaching, teachers work way too hard and make way too little. And I found myself thinking, I want to do more than this for my lifestyle. So I left teaching and I went into online business, and I really tried a bunch of different things to figure out what would work for me for a few years. And I stumbled and picked myself back up more times than I can count. And I stumbled my way into this current business in 2020. So for a while, I was building my own programs, right? Some were in the personal development space. I had some in the productivity and time management space, in the mastermind space. I did a bunch of things. And while my students always got great results, I really struggled to grow these programs, like to scale them to the number of people I really wanted to impact. And I bought a program on like how to sell and market your stuff. Like we all do. We all have bought those programs. It was $7,500, so it wasn't like the biggest investment in the world, but it also wasn't a $50 easy yes. And I got into this training program and it was just horrible. Like it did not deliver on the promise. It was not geared to all different kinds of learners. And as someone who can kind of coach themselves through learning, that was really problematic for me. And it was my first understanding that there's a lot of people out there who are making plenty of money and who know what they know, but don't necessarily have the teaching skill set to teach what they know. And that's when I started doing this for other people, which is the current company that we have. And so now I just get to work with these incredible experts. We partner with them, we pull the expertise and the wisdom out of their brain, and we turn it into a learning journey that allows their students to really get the transformation that they're after. And we get to have our impact through their impact. So that's the short story.
That's incredible. I love that journey. I hear that all the time. Entrepreneurs will try a little bit of everything. They stumble their way into
Mhm.
something, and suddenly it's the perfect product market fit that they find there's a need. Sometimes it's found through your own frustrations by purchasing that course that didn't deliver and took you through into your new journey here. Now, I've heard from a lot of entrepreneurs that courses are the way to go. This is something you build once and it's a recurring revenue model. Why is it so attractive to create this course? Have you seen a lot of results from other entrepreneurs who have, launched their own course through you?
We've seen plenty and plenty and plenty of results. I think the most challenging thing is you're right. We do see these posts on Instagram, these ads, just build a course and you'll be a millionaire. And in truth is, it's not that easy. One of the most common myths is that courses are passive income when they're really not. When someone says passive income to me, I think stock market. I think you buy a stock and you see it grow up and down, but over time, right? You leave it in there long enough, it grows and you don't really have to do anything to it. Maybe you check on it once a year. It's actually passive. Whereas programs, you build it once, yes. So there is an element of you did this one thing one time and now you get to sell it over and over again. But the selling of it over and over again is typically not a passive act. So whether that's launching or evergreen, when you're always creating new ad creative, you're always trying to reach different market segments, whatever way you're selling it, it's typically not passive. Even something like SEO, right? So you like have a YouTube channel or you do blogging and SEO, so your website ranks. There's still upkeep of those things, whether it's you or someone else. Someone is actively keeping an eye on it, not passively letting it ride. And so it's really challenging because people buy into this vision of, oh, I'm going to sit on the beach and sipping a mimosa. My PayPal is going to ding a bunch of times. And that can be a reality. I have many, many clients for whom it is a reality. And there's still this idea of just because they're sipping mimosas on the beach doesn't mean somebody isn't in their Facebook meta ads checking shit out right now. Excuse my French. Is this explicit? I don't know if I'm allowed to say these things.
You
Um,
absolutely can. This is an unfiltered, raw podcast. Let it out.
well, that's it. That's me letting it out. So, yes, can you build your company and your business to a point where you have a revenue stream that can be recurring that requires less time than one-on-one delivery? Yeah, but there's like stages to go through to get there. It's not an A to B kind of transformation for most. I'll say for most. There are exceptions.
No, it's something that we need to really keep in mind that we have these dreams and aspirations, and the action of either being passive or active is really going to depend on the results that we want to achieve. We can't just set it and forget it. Marketing is not a rotisserie chicken. We need to actually take action and have active results to achieve those. And before, when we first joined, we were talking about market shifts and the trends in marketing. What have you seen in the last 4 years since you started your course creation offer?
Yeah, I think it's been massive shifts, like everything with pandemic, right? Like everything changed. I'll say that I was recently discussing this with a friend of mine, Michael Hunter, who runs Spiffy Checkouts. It's a checkout optimization company. And he shared this with me, and I think it really summarized what I've seen in a beautiful way. So credit to Michael, shout out to Michael, because he took what I had been experiencing and really distilled it, which is that in 2020, everyone shifted online because we had to. If you had to survive, there was no other choice. So you had people who were already online, and then you had this huge influx of creators who were previously offline, and now they've come online. So you've got all these people. However, because not only the creators had to shift online, but the consumers had to shift online, more people were buying stuff online more than they ever had before as well. And then all the money that's being pumped in to the market from the government. Then you hit this like 2021, 2022 phase where companies in this coaching, consulting, online education expert world are making more than they ever have before, right? People who were previously doing, $100,000 are sometimes up to 1 million or more. And so that's beautiful and great and amazing. What happens, however, is over time, the market is becoming more sophisticated because they've been online for many years now, and they can start to see through some of the marketing hooks and angles that used to work are no longer working. Now we're in a position where everyone is skeptical and everyone is aware that there's so much trash out there in the online education space. And with the market dipping, you just like in general, everyone is more conservative. They're not spending as much as they once were. So the good news is, though we're in what many people would call winter and times are hard, and those people who were making $1 million in 2021, 2022 are about making 300,000 this year. Like I've heard many, many, many people this has happened to. If you stick it out for the next 3 to 5 years, the cream is going to rise to the top. And if you're part of that cream, then you will have much longer term success. So again, these are the law of cycles. This is just a natural rhythm that life takes us through. So, as tough as it is right now, it's like double down and recommit if you want to be in this industry. And if you're starting to realize that you don't, well, then get out now and go do something else.
It's amazing that you highlighted this as a supply and demand from COVID and just the general consensus about the economy and recession and how people kind of spend in their purchase behaviors as a whole, seeing this in across different industries as well. So I can attest to that. For those who are starting out with a either very low or $0 budget for marketing, I've seen a lot of like Facebook groups or natural market benefits to that. Are there ways that you've seen people can launch and get their course right in front of the right people or get found more easily?
It's all about what's the ultimate outcome. So, if your ultimate outcome is cash, like if you need to make money, then you want to start to think about what's the offer that's going to allow you to actually make that money. So you're looking at more high ticket programs, high end masterminds, things that solve a big problem pain point. So you want the promise to be more geared toward the pain that you're helping people get out of. So, first of all, that's the thing to know. If you are not worried about making money, if it's more of a legacy or impact play, then I would start to think about content strategy, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, whatever organically you can do to support people and then grow from there. It's one of those things like, what's your main goal with this? And then choose the offer or the strategy that most aligns with that goal. Did that answer your question?
Yes, you
Okay.
have to consider your end goal in order to figure out what game plan you want to try to execute. It definitely makes sense. Something that seen within your content, great content, by the way, fabulous. Your
Thank you.
content focuses a lot on the client experience, delivering a better product than what you may have promised previously. And this is something I emphasize with my clients too, is that if you want repeat business, referral worthy business, review worthy business, you need to over deliver and really provide them a great experience. What is your experience with the client expectations and their overall satisfaction when it comes to delivering more results?
Well, this is one of the perks about having so many things in the market that are really bad is like if you just do what you say you're going to do, like not even over deliver, like I'm all for over delivery, I'm the queen of over delivery. And if you literally just do what you say you're going to do, people will feel like you've over delivered because there's just so much trash to compare you to, right?
Sad but
So, I
true.
mean, sad but true. I was talking to a client of ours yesterday, Australia, PR maven, very well known in Australia. And she spent $250,000 with contractors in the United States on various things for her personal brand and her business. And she told me I'm the only one who actually delivered. So I'm telling you, if you just do the right things, if you just do right by people, it will come like, guess who refers me business, right? She does.
Mm,
So she doesn't wanna promote any of these other people, but she's promoting us. So I think that, yeah, you're right. Like, what are the 3 ways to grow a business? You can get new leads, get more clients, right? You can increase the amount that each client spends with you. That's number 2. And number 3 is you have a higher retention or repurchase rate, or in some cases, referral rate. So that lifetime value, you increase that over time. And if you do a good job with that, you don't really have to worry about new leads as much because your old clients will send you new leads and say nice things about you on the internet. So I think you're totally right. It's all about client experience and just doing what you say you're going to do, and especially in the online course, online program world.
absolutely. It's unfortunate that there are so many phonies and imposters out there that make us look good just by doing kind of the standard or bare minimum. But today's day and age, consumers are becoming more aware. They're learning more. They're doing more research. So they are able to sniff out some of the imposters a little bit earlier on. But unfortunately, we get stuck with some bad actors who don't have our best intents in mind. With all the courses that you've been working on and creating, are you seeing a specific topic or industry that is really flying off the shelves right now? It's super hot.
Yeah, I can give you some specifics and I will. The commonality between these is a very clear pain point that they're helping the client get out of that they kind of don't have an option but to get out of. So, for example, we've done divorce and custody case programs. If you're going through a divorce, you're going through a divorce. If your lawyer is, $500 an hour and you can get a course for $500 and do some of this work yourself and potentially even get better results than your lawyer could, it's a no-brainer offer, right? Similarly, I've recently been talking to someone who helps people get out of Google jail. So these are like, think med spas who promote on Google a lot, and then they're not adhering to Google's policies. And so they basically get blocked from being shown on Google. What happens to your business? I'm in Phoenix, right? So if I go search med spa Phoenix and yours doesn't come up, that's a really big problem. So things like that that are very high pain point are really working in this market because again, people are not spending as much. And so if they are going to spend on something, they really want to make sure it's getting them out of the pain that they want to get out of. And that's not always the case. The other really big commonality is community and personal brand. So the bigger your personal brand, the more people know, like, and trust you, the easier it is for them to say yes to your program simply because they want that proximity to you and your energy and your vibe, really. So that's why it's interesting to say, yes, this is happening in the market. And there's all of these exceptions of people who are doing better than they've ever done before. And I think a lot of that is just how you approach a season like this, right? Like Tony Robbins says, you want to approach this season like a gladiator. Are you approaching this like a gladiator or are you approaching this like, oh my God, what the fuck am I going to do? In which case, you're not in a good state to be able to make the decisions to turn this into a winning season for you, or at least plant the seeds for when things turn around. So, again, it's like interesting because while this is happening, there's also so many exceptions to that that are also happening in reality. So there's hope, people. There's hope.
It's so exciting to see the trends and market shifts happening in real time. That as far as the content creation goes, how do you like to structure a course? Is this more like, let's make it as short as possible, distill it down, or are you trying to go a little bit more long form and provide as much detail as possible? Are you seeing better results, one or the other?
I definitely skew toward as brief as possible. We're living in the land of Netflix and TikTok. So people want to pay you so that they can get the result in as short a time as possible, not as long a time as possible. Now, there are certain audiences that this is not true for, and there's certain programs that this is not true for. But most of the people who come to me, their buyers are making the decision because they want to go faster. And if that's the reason they're making the decision, then we want to make sure we're giving them what they need, but nothing extra. Versus there's a few clients that we've worked with, and their buyers are making the decision because they don't want to make a mistake. That's really the number one reason they're making a buying decision, in which case we're more apt to lengthen lessons, include more content. And it's not always in the video, sometimes it's in supplemental resources, right? So there's ways around creating short video content, but also being comprehensive. But all that to say, I typically skew short, but it's all about knowing why is the student buying this course in the first place and getting into their psychology and then delivering them the learning experience that they desire.
That makes a lot of sense that you want to focus the content on what the audience is trying to achieve as their end goal. That's very important. With everything that you've created here for your content, are most of your course creators simply just offering the course, or do most of them offer like a supplemental service or consulting program that almost this course is kind of its own lead magnet in a sense?
We have both. So we have some people who come to us and they're like, listen, I know I've done courses before. I want a new self-paced course that I don't have to show up for, that I can run this funnel to and it will sell. And we're like, great. And I have other people who come to me and they want some kind of high ticket program where there's maybe group coaching involved. And yes, whatever the case is, we're always ascending them to what's next in the offer suite, whether that's a one on one service or if it's just a higher ticket offer that they have. We're always like, okay, what's the next problem that they're going to have? How can we let them know we can solve that problem when they get there inside of the content that we're currently doing? So, people think of like lead magnets as it's the freebie, is the opt in on my website. Great. That is the magnet to attract the lead that can get into your first program. But it's almost like, how can you attract the lead inside of your current program for the next program in your offer suite or the next offer in your offer suite? So, yeah, that's a very good point. It's very key that you pulled that out because people never think about this. They're like, I'm just going to deliver this one thing. But you have to look at your business holistically. If we're talking about lifetime value, what else can we offer them that they will buy? So again, that lifetime value for each client goes up.
Yes. And I love that you did focus on what is the next logical problem that is likely needs to be solved. That is a big focus on why a lot of offers don't end up sticking or become successful. They're not worried about the end consumer on what they actually want and actually solving the problem. How do you kind of distill that information? Like when you're working through a client and helping them build their course, what are some of the main key points that you try to pull out from them to include into this content?
If you're talking about the Ascension specifically, I mean, first I just ask them, hey, what do you have available that we can upsell? Like, what do you already have working that we can upsell inside of this? And then other times it's helping them see how they can help their students implement what they know. So, implementation support, really, really big right now. And how can you help them implement in a way that doesn't require so much of your time? So, one of my favorite things is to offer one-on-one Loom reviews. So have you heard of Loom? It's like that screen share software, right? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So for example, we're doing a real estate investing program right now, and there's this element of renovation that we're teaching them. So a bit of fix and flipping kind of content. And a big element of this program in particular is floor planning because it's a very specific strategy. And so getting the floor plan right is really important. Now, in the program, we're providing them examples of the floor plans, floor plan templates they can use. However, if they want us to review their floor plan, we can do that for an extra, I don't know how much they're going to charge for it, $200 or something. And they submit their information in a form. And then the expert does a Loom review of the floor plan, pointing out anything that they think might need to be adjusted. Quick, simple, easy, 10 minutes. And we could train someone else to also do those floor plan reviews so we can get her out of the weeds as well. So it's all about what is the process? What's the result? We're getting these students. How can we provide them more implementation support? How can we help them go faster? Affiliate links. What are softwares that you use that they should use? Great. Let's get an affiliate link for that. So to me, it's very simple, but many people don't think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you attribute your early success, your growth into the pretty medium
Mhm.
sized team that you have today in fulfillment and admin? What was that early growth looking like for you?
When I got started, I just went head down into personal development and just business foundations because I come from a teaching background, right? So I didn't know what marketing meant. I didn't know how to do a sales call. I didn't know how to price offers. I literally knew nothing except how to teach. That's the only skill set I came with and work ethic. That was what I had. Work
That's
ethic and I
important.
knew how to teach. Right? Yeah. And so I think what was really key was just head down. Like I binge listened to podcasts just like this. So anytime I was walking the dog or doing the dishes, it was just as much immersion as I could get. Even if I didn't take notes, I realized come from a teaching background, it's really important that if you're learning to someone something, you're like sitting down and taking notes and actually in the educational environment. What I realized is even if I was just passively listening to it, that repetition sinks into the unconscious mind. And so even if you're just binge listening to this podcast, that's really good for your future self. That is an investment that will pay dividends. And even today, it's just like immersion with the right people, the right events, and the right content to help me make decisions now and things that I'll need to know for the future. So, yeah, immersion and learning.
That is so important. When it comes to that learning aspect that you mentioned, unfortunately, some people get stuck into they try to perform self help, but it ends up being shelf help. Within your courses, is there a best course of action to get others to take action to actually learn and retain this information? Is it workbooks? Is it, accountability? What have you seen be successful for other people who are on the learning, receiving end of these courses?
So, you're going to hate this answer, but it depends. It
Nothing wrong
depends.
with it. Things
Depends.
things depend. That's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you have to again look at the result that you're creating for them. So let's take like a micro program, for example, something that is really short. It's probably 60 to 90 minutes of content. They listen to it and they get the result immediately. Like they don't have to go back and like continue to learn and listen. No, they take it once, they get the result. Things like that, this covers all programs, but especially in this use case, you want to make the actions as short and quick and tangible as possible. So, for example, a good micro program would be how to set up your podcast studio. There might be 6 lessons in there. And at the end of lesson 1, they go buy their microphone. At the end of lesson 2, they go buy their webcam. At the end of lesson 3, they set up their light. So it's very specific and quick and tangible and keeps me in momentum. And then I'm done and I have my podcast set up and I don't have to futz with it again. So, as much as possible, that's how we try to keep them really tight and those action steps. And then the other thing I would say is like trying to meet all learners. So, we've got people who are visual learners, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners. Visual learners love a manual. They love to see the big picture. They love a framework. They love a diagram. Auditory learners, you can do private podcast feeds for them, are really, really helpful. So they can just listen on the go whenever they want. Kinesthetic learners, they usually need to write something down, but also I found what's really good for them is giving them the option to do an exercise to test their knowledge before they go and do it in the real world. So, like, if I go back to my real estate investing, here's a potential property. Go mock up the floor plan yourself. And then they see, okay, is this floor plan match the answer key? So they get to try out the action in like a low stakes environment. So yeah, so meeting all your learners, making your action steps really simple and clear, providing the relevant resources so that they can shortcut their action steps. All of that super important.
Absolutely. For you, Jasmine, since you're such a big learner, what were some of the most influential podcasts or YouTube resources have you stumbled upon that have been most influential for you in your journey?
I got my personal development start with Tony Robbins. So I don't even know how many events at this point. A lot. A lot. And so I always recommend his live events. If you can get there in person, I know he does online now. I'm an in-person person and I love those in-person events. So I totally 100% recommend that. I also think that when it comes to podcasts, like niche specific podcasts are really helpful. So if you are in the HVAC industry, go listen to other HVAC podcasts. They're out there, believe me. And then the other is like skill building specific podcasts. So if you're really focused on marketing, go listen to a marketing podcast. And if you can find a marketing podcast in your niche, like let's say go back to the HVAC example, marketing for service providers, that's also really helpful. So I would say personalize your experience. More generic business podcast. Hormozy's great. I don't agree with everything he says, but Alex Hormozy is one of the goats for sure. Yeah. So Hormozy, Robbins, personalized it your own experience. That's what I got off the top.
I love it. It's always tough to try to give our devoted support to any specific person because anything they could and might say in the future would be a direct reflection on us. Like, well, I like most of
Yes.
his stuff, but
Yes.
overall,
Yes.
I
Yes.
totally get
I
it.
mean, it's so true. It's so true. And even now, like both Robbins and Hormozy, the majority of what they say, I'm a hell yes. And then there's some things I'm like, that is just not aligned with, which I think that skill comes over time, right? Like the more you listen to
Yes.
things and try things out, the more you realize this is valid advice, but it's just not the right advice for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, I totally agree. So, Jasmine, what is one thing you would love to teach your younger self that you learned today that you're like, man, if I knew this sooner, this would have helped me a ton?
Hmm. I think I knew this, but I wish I would have doubled down on it, which is that your community and your network is not everything, but it's a lot. I owe so much of my success to the people who have championed me and the relationships that I've built. And I think at the end of the day, like business is done between people. And so, really going into even more relationships with even greater intention to serve and support one another. Yeah, wish I
I
would have
love
doubled
that.
down on that. Mhm.
That's really important. Natural market, the champions who want to fight for us and be those promoters of our business and our service. And just like you said, it's the person, people buy people, and they want to connect
Mhm.
and learn from others. And as you mentioned before, people want to be in your aura, your vibe. They want to be like, okay, if I'm close enough in proximity, maybe some of that success or awesomeness will somehow rub off onto me, and then I can be at that next level too. But I'm sure you can attest when you put yourself into these other groups with more successful entrepreneurs and business owners, it does rub off. You do learn a lot about what they're doing, the strategy, just the fact that it's possible. You want to now take action
Mhm.
on that. So
Mhm.
growing that networking community is so important.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think there's such a real element of when you're in rooms and you're the goldfish and you're surrounded by whales, which I'm blessed. Most of the rooms that I'm in, that's what's happening. I am the goldfish and they are the whales. I think that how to overcome that potential imposter syndrome and what am I doing here and do I even belong here is to own just your top gift. You don't need to own all of your greatness. You just got to own one thing that you know you can add value in. And for me, that was teaching and program creation. And I was like, listen, I am not the world's best ads wizard. Some of these funnels, these terms that they're throwing around, I have never heard of. And should anyone need any help with any sort of programming element, like I know I can help. So I'd say that if you're working on expanding your network, getting into rooms where you are the goldfish, then kudos and just own that, at least that one thing that is your superpower.
I love that you use a goldfish reference because aren't goldfish can grow as big as their environment will allow them? So if you're in a small fish bowl, you could grow bigger if you kind of
Yeah.
Yeah, goldfish will grow to it's a great reference because I think just kind of shows you you need to branch out and expand your network, grow into bigger rooms. If you find you're the smartest person in the room, it's time to find a different room. You want to
Mhm.
constantly level up and continue growing.
100%. Well, that worked out.
Yeah,
Yay.
that was perfect. You nailed it. Jasmine, I know you're super busy. You have a lot on your plate, but what are you excited most for 2024, the growth and expansion that you're doing? What's kind of coming down the pipeline for you?
We're working on a new offer right now that I'm so excited about. It's about going deeper with our clients. Usually we do projects. Okay. So people come in, they want to build or revamp a program or an event. There's some project they have. And while I love that and it brings us so much joy, there is this element of I want to grow with you and your students. And so we're offering this new program that does that, where we really get to kind of be like the creative team inside of a company. So I love that. And then I'm also launching a YouTube channel. And, I have been blessed to be booked out for many weeks in advance for years just because of what we do is so niche and so needed. And we do it on such a high level. And I feel like now I'm at a point with my team that they are running as efficiently or better than me without me there 40 hours a week. And so now I have the space to be able to go and give back on YouTube. And so I'm very excited about that as well.
That's so exciting. And I love that you have built these processes and systems, the business itself that can run more efficiently, even without you being involved. Big picture stuff happens. That's how you kind of move the company forward, which is so exciting. Jasmine, we only have a couple of minutes left. I wanted to ask, where can people find out more about you and get connected with you online?
Yeah, so our website is creation.co and there is an 8 in our name. So it's CRE the number 8 TION, and that is because 8 is also the number for abundance and it's also the infinity sign, and our whole goal is to have a course flow that creates cash flow, ongoing, long term. Again, it's not totally passive, but it can be a recurring revenue stream. And yeah, so that's where you can find us online. My Instagram is Jasmine Jonte. My YouTube channel will probably something be around my name, Jasmine Jonte. So you can find us there as well. Very soon. Very soon.
Fantastic. Very exciting, Jasmine. We appreciate you taking the time to share your journey with us, the tips and tricks, everything that you're doing great, and how others have been successful in that same space. We appreciate you taking the time. Congratulations on all your past success and looking forward to your future endeavors as well. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.